in Lagos, is 18 million. I wouldn't fall on my sword for these numbers because these numbers are hard to come by as precise, depends on how they are defined. Jurisdictions vary, as any of you working in cities know, but is between 18 and 20 million, but is receiving 600,000 people every year. So it's rapidly expanding. 70% lives in slums, 68-70% depends on various definitions. But the annual budget for a city like New York is $50 billion, for a city like Lagos is $650 million, which somebody from the Lagos government said, depending on what transfers you add to that, could be up to $2 billion. Yet is a very small amount for per capita, and that begins to shape our understanding of what these cities are facing. Lagos, no longer the capital, but is a critical economic hub. With all the changes in the economy, but also fiscal prudence, the federal transfers are shrinking. So the national government is giving less and less to the city. So that is pushing what is available as resources. Now, in terms of the hazards, really, this is the observed data. This is something like what Professor Kim had shown for Seoul. This contradicts what most planners, scholars have been arguing in this business, that data is not available. In the afternoon session, we'll show you hundreds of cities have climate data which is not being deployed, and that remains a concern. It's not being deployed in the policy circles, it's being deployed only in the climate science circles. It's a practical problem. There has been a degree of warming since the 90s. We have seen warmer periods. You see variability in the temperature. This is really the last 100 years. And there's a slight decrease in precipitation. But what is reassuring with this data, if there's a slight decrease, that in the last 100 years it's not as radical, but what really matters is the variability, something again pointed out in the case of Seoul. But each of these can be studied in those periods, and one could understand how historically they have responded to it, and if this becomes a routine phenomena, how severe will it be? And some of that is explored in our paper. Now, this takes the IPCC projection models and deploys them for the city context for those locations, and starts informing the local policymaker on what the implications are. So that we tabulate some of the basic parameters below and look at the projection figures. That's the hazard aspect, and if you're a climate scientist, traditionally you would have just done that and said, look, there's a problem, you need to act. Now, if you were a city planner or part of the city administration, often you would do this section now. We should say that, well, a lot of the city is less than 5 meters above the sea level, and much of the population is in that red zone. A lot of the slums are right there. Just what you saw, this is the lagoon, and both the poor and non-poor are located along the lagoon. So it is not just an issue of intercity vulnerabilities, but it's also intra-city. And it's not enough to say that, yes, Lagos is different from New York or other cities, but within Lagos there's tremendous variation, and much of the existing literature does not capture that in a serious way. And out of that concern, we try to squarely articulate it in the metric that we have been preparing. This is built on extensions. It's right along the lagoon. This is a planned area of Lagos. This has its own issues of why it is vulnerable with storm surge on the rise. But what you see next is Makoko, which is really floating slums on stilts right into the lagoon. Quite like how Venice was conceptualized, except that these are slums, very poor people, and that does put these people at great risk. And the government is doing a lot in this direction, but it is not squarely informed by climate risk. It is working just to improve service provision there, and is avoiding relocation because that has been a potential issue in the past. Lagos has been doing its preliminary climate impact assessment. Our scholars have been working with the government on producing various action plans, bits of research, some of which is sponsored by international agencies. But there is little or no information on sea level rise, several other gaps in these issues. Jurisdiction is fragmented between national, regional, local. I'm running out of time. And but the city is proactive. It is there's a large World Bank investment here, $200 million, which is for infrastructure provision. They are part of C40. They've been actively participating from these things.
Sheldon, go to 110 because you have two cities, so you
Yes.
can go a little bit.
Okay. Thank you. A lot of the garbage is not being picked up, so the primary response to flooding is let's clear the drains. And there's been a mega exercise in just, with the new leadership in there, a lot of effort to clean it up. But this is not to say that, don't see a mess in this, see agency of the government in this. They're trying to get their act together. The point here is that these are radically different conditions from what we saw yesterday and day before. And their adaptation is the primary concern, not mitigation, as has been a lot of the emphasis over the last few years. So just to quickly sum it up, we say, well, think of it through these three vectors at least, and try to conceptualize if you were to do a rapid climate risk assessment. That's the direction. That's a better direction to take than to fall into one of these. And a lot of this is summarized in the earlier slide.